Hello, everybody. So I'm Dara Thomason, the life coach for quilters, and I am here with my beautiful client, Susan Blair, and we are here talking about her experience of what it's been like to, first of all, being introduced to coaching as you were coached on a volunteer 5-day coaching class that we did in August of 2020, and going to from then becoming one of my one-on-one clients, and now how your journey's been. So let's just start with that.
Okay. So I happened to find out Dara was doing a 5-day kind of introduction, 5-day challenge with Lisa Bonjean and of Primitive Gatherings. And so I was just curious about it. I didn't know, I had absolutely no idea of what it was, what was involved with it.
Mm-hmm.
And and of course it was during the pandemic. So, we were all at home, not doing a whole lot. So I was like, okay, this would be why not try this? Attended the daily meetings and listened. I did participate in the coaching. I will say I was the first few days particularly, I was really skeptical. I was like, okay, what is this? It's a weight loss gimmick. It's there was a lot of time spent like trying to figure out like how is Dara doing this? What's the deal here?
Mm-hmm.
And just spent a lot of time like really thinking about it, looking at it. I think that in that 5-day thing, you had introduced, you had mentioned the books by Dr. Jason Fung
Mm-hmm.
at one point. And so with kind of how my personality operates, I was like, okay, got on Amazon, ordered the obesity code, started reading it, and read through it actually pretty quickly. And I was like, okay, this may be something that's really a doable thing.
Mm-hmm.
Gave it a lot of thought, talked with my husband about it. I had a one-on-one consult with you, and really thought about it and thought, you know what, I'm gonna give this a try. I've tried Weight Watchers, I've tried Diet Center, I've tried Optavia. I mean, I've tried all these crazy things, liquid protein diet, all this stuff over the years. And I, would lose some, then gain it back and then more. And I think I always had in my head that there was something, it wasn't totally about the food. I could tell you, how many Weight Watchers points any number of things is, or how many calories, or what the macros were on things. I know that part. That's not any big mystery. And so there has always been a level of frustration in terms of what piece is missing. What
Mm-hmm.
is it that I'm not getting? And you hear people who've lost weight successfully will say things like, oh, I've something just clicked. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was always a part of me that I'm like, okay, why can they get something to click and I can't?
Yeah. No
What's
cooking. What's
yeah,
happening?
what's the deal? So I just kind of had this feeling that, maybe this was what I needed, what my brain needed to get that thing to click. And so started working with you, and um, I it was difficult at first.
Talk to us about what was difficult about our approach, creating your own protocol, like weight loss being simple. What was hard about that?
Well, the creating my own protocol, because everything else is you need to eat X, Y, and Z, and you need to eat it on this schedule, and et cetera, et cetera. So all of a sudden, to have all of those guide rails taken
Mm-hmm.
away, and you need to figure out what's going to work for you, is pretty overwhelming and intimidating,
Mm.
because now it's all on your shoulders. And so, if you eat whatever it is and you notice that the scale is up, it's up to you to go back and take a look at what you were eating and say, oh, this is probably not a great thing for me to eat if I want to lose weight. or I really need to be careful and limit this.
Yeah. But even though it wasn't all on your shoulders because you had access to me anytime you needed.
Well, oh, absolutely.
Let's talk about that because
Yeah.
there is it's a totally different relationship
Hmm.
because you do have someone who's going to coach you through.
Right.
So talk about what that was like for you, knowing that it was on your shoulders,
Hmm.
yet you had someone there who could help you.
That piece of it was just super helpful, and for me there's a level of, certainly a level of comfort in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
um because yes, when things were really challenging, to be able to reach out to you, and we had our weekly one-on-one sessions,
Hmm.
had the group coaching once a week, but also to be able to use the instant messaging and Marco Polo, and reach out to you if there were other times that I needed to do that. But it was truly a coaching. It was, you weren't going to give me the answers, but you were able to walk me through the things that I needed to think about or ask myself to get to the answers that I needed, without specifically saying, oh yes, when you are feeling such and such, this is what you should do, but to kind of lead me to those answers.
Hmm.
um it in terms of it being challenging initially, because if you want to do it, you truly need to be all in. You need to look at the questions
Hmm.
that, the worksheets that you provide. You need to look at those questions. You need to really spend time and answer those questions. And they're hard questions. They're
What makes them hard? Let's just talk about that a little bit.
because you really have to go within yourself and dig for those answers. And sometimes the answers are not what you would like them to be.
Because
Um,
how much time do you think you spent buffering with food or shopping beforehand?
I think I spent a lot of time. I think I spent a whole lot of time. Like I rarely thought about what my feelings were
Mm.
at all. I mean, unless I was like really sad or frustrated, upset. I think I had shared with you fairly early on. I had a realization in terms of like thinking about feelings, that my go-to feelings were like frustrated, overwhelmed, upset.
Mhm.
Um, and so I made a decision for myself that when I was thinking about feelings, I needed to not use those words. I needed to really dig and figure out what was going on, because those truly were my go-tos. And I understand that that's not a healthy place for me to be.
So as I'm listening to you, especially those people who are listening to watching this, because they don't have the experience of what it's like, but
Right.
one of the things that we do in what I do with my clients is we really work on everything we do in our life is because we want to feel a certain way. But if we're spending a lot of time buffering, that's actually numbing us so we're not able to feel. And so the only way that we're really getting a lot of joy or any of that comes from food or shopping.
Mhm.
So can you talk a little bit about what that's been like to have literally gone into your mind now, starting to clean out? Because
Mhm.
that's what I do is I show you your thoughts and we think, oh, are these helpful? No. But because you were buffering, you were numb, so you didn't have a consciousness of those
Mhm.
thoughts. Um, what has it been like to you basically are waking up into a whole new life
Mhm.
for you?
I pay attention to my feelings,
Hmm.
and if something's going on, for instance, just as a for instance, last night we were sitting watching television, and all of a sudden I just like I had this feeling in my chest. I'm like, oh, what's going on? What am I feeling? What's what's happening? It got my attention, and I I was actually sitting and doing some handwork, and I slowed down, and I kind of put it down for a second, and I was like, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And so to think about that, to pay attention to those feelings, um, and to pay attention to happy feelings as well, which I I don't think I did a lot of that.
Mm.
I mean, I knew that, spending time, with my husband, or spending time with my kids and grandchildren, that I was happy. I knew that I looked forward to those times, but I don't think I paid as quite as much attention in the moment, to how I was feeling, and I'm doing a lot more of that. Um, I can honestly say I don't do it 100% of the time. I absolutely have to catch myself.
Welcome to being a human.
Yeah, it's a work in progress, and it's going to be a work in progress. Um, but yeah, I really pay attention to those things. I pay attention to and get excited about when I get to buy a smaller size of clothes. Um, it just, yeah, it's really just having that awareness, kind of slowing things down in my brain, and not glossing over, um, when, something happens, something negative happens, whether it's, something in the house breaks or whatever it is. I'm now able to look at it and go, all right, this is the negative 50% for the day, whatever it is. And move past that.
Yeah.
Um,
So your lows aren't so low,
no.
and you're not having to avoid them, but your highs can be so much higher because you just have such an awareness.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind just talking us through, so let's say the first 4 months,
Mhm.
4 or 5 months, what was that like for you compared to now that you really have embraced,
Mhm.
really, because I do call my program Love Yourself Thin,
Mhm.
and really that philosophy. So can you just talk to us a little bit about that?
The first 4 months, I worked to be really diligent about, weighing myself every day, looking at myself naked every day, doing that kind of work, and doing journaling. And I honestly, there were days that I was kind of like, I don't know why I'm doing this. It's not making a difference. It's, um, but I did it because I made a commitment to do it. And that it was important to me to do that and to follow through. Um, I I honestly, there were times when I was really discouraged because, like, within the group, that, there are people who are, oh, well, I'm moving along, losing 2 pounds a week, and I'm not a person who generally loses 2 pounds a week. I did initially for for the month of August, I did lose 2 pounds a week. Um, so yeah, there was definitely discouragement there. If I didn't see the scale move the way that I thought it should move, based on being good with what I had eaten, yeah, I was discouraged and I got frustrated, and there was um there was a lot of, like, negative thought in terms of
Mhm.
myself and my body. And I mean, and there was one point, and I think it was within that first 4 months, when I told you I was just really frustrated and really thinking negatively. And despite the fact that you have said since I met you, okay, your thoughts create your results. Um, and despite the fact that I'd heard that over and over, I all of a
And
sudden,
we worked on thought models every session, and
right,
you saw evidence that your thought eventually turns into your result line.
right. I kept having this thought of, oh, I'm doing a terrible job. I'm stuck. I'm not losing. And I this one day I'm like, wait a minute. My thought of I'm stuck is what's keeping me stuck. So, it
Don't
takes a
worry,
lot sometimes.
Susan. I've been doing this for like a lot longer than you have, and I'm certified in it. And there's times where I'm like, oh, my thought gives me my result. What?
Yeah. So that was that was like, okay, I just have to laugh at myself because that's kind of crazy that, you know, I can get it with all these other things, but with that one particular thing, it was embedded a little more deeply, shall we say. Um,
Yeah, we had to
so
loosen it up a little bit more.
yeah. So I mean, it takes a while to kind of get that into your thinking, and it's trying to change the way that you're thinking when you've been thinking that way for, in my case, 59 years. Um, it
Yeah.
just, you know, those thoughts are well ingrained in and well, you know, in our habit of doing things. So,
Right.
um,
So what would you say was, so that was a turning point for you.
mhm.
And so tell us a little bit more about in the last month or so, what truly has happened for you, this transformation, and talk to us a little bit more about that.
Um, in the last month or so, I mean, I do feel like I have really kind of turned a corner in terms of the, you know, thinking about my thinking. I can do it more easily. The model that we use, I I can't I can't even tell you how many times a day I am doing the model in my head. I certainly do the model on paper, but when I go out for a walk, I do the model in my head. Whatever is bothering me, um, I am really paying attention to it, and I really stop and think about it. And I think about, why is it bothering me? What, you know, because that initial response of it bothering me is really my unintentional model. So how do I really want to feel about it? And I guess just that consciousness that I do have the power to think the thoughts that I want to think, that I can, you know, push away the ones that are not serving me well. And I feel like that's becoming more automatic, but it's, you know, obviously breaking 59 years of patterns,
Yeah.
it takes a while.
So one of the things, especially those who are watching who don't really know what the model is, I like to think of it as a filter. So we have thoughts in our mind and they're there. And so when we take a thought, we basically put it through a filter
Mhm,
to see, kind of look at it more clearly, almost like I guess a filter is one way, or a magnifying glass. And then we can see why we're actually getting those results that we have.
mhm,
So it is probably one of the most predominant tools that I use in my program. And like Susan's saying, the more that you do it, the more it becomes automatic. And then we know we can look at the unintention of these all, like, because none of us wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to be a jerk to myself. I'm going to overeat. I'm going to carry a whole bunch of extra weight. And I'm like, none of us do that.
yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay, back. So now we can start becoming aware of what we're doing,
Mhm,
and then we can decide on purpose how we want to live.
yeah. Well, and I think that that recognition in terms of, you know, like you said, we don't get up in the morning saying we're going to be a jerk to ourselves, but that awareness of when I do, like, say something to myself, or I'm like, oh, that's beating myself up. I can't do that. That's not helpful.
Mm.
It's not it's not going to help me get to where I want to be. Um, and it really, it's just that awareness. And it's been kind of interesting, because I was actually just thinking about this the other day, that you know, I have not, like, gone shopping for quilt stuff, in, like, to just go to a store and just buy a bunch of fabric. I have not done that for months and months and months. And because, I mean, COVID obviously is a piece of it. It's not quite as accessible as it was, 18 months ago.
Yeah, but online shopping is very easy.
Oh, online shopping is extremely easy. But what the interesting thing is, when I've done online shopping, it's been very purposeful.
Mm.
It's been like a quilt that I'm working on, I needed a back for. So it's been very purposeful. It's been, I need a back for this particular quilt. It's, it's been, oh, I need more glue sticks to be able to finish this English paper piecing project. So it has been very purposeful and very limited to what it is that I need. So because I haven't been buffering with that. I just
Mm.
I haven't. I'm like, I love the projects that I have already purchased, that I have sitting in my house, that that are already paid for. So I'm going to work on those things and enjoy them as I'm doing them. So yeah, it's
I think yeah.
it's been
Go ahead.
interesting to me to kind of be able to take that step back and observe that behavior. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually tell people, I said, you will save so much money by
Mm-hmm.
taking my program.
Mm-hmm.
Not only on healthcare costs, because as we know, when we carry a lot of extra weight, we've
Right.
got all the risk of type 2 diabetes and all that,
Yeah.
but you literally will save your quilting budget,
Yeah.
which, I mean, truthfully, who has a quilting budget? But because we just overspend anyway, but
Right.
you won't be doing that overspending,
Right.
and you're going to have so much more productivity
Mm-hmm.
in the way you spend your time, because you're not spending all this time buffering.
Absolutely. So, and you mentioned in terms of healthcare, I mean, I have been able to, I have rheumatoid arthritis,
Mhm.
and I have been able to pretty significantly decrease the amount of medication that I'm needing to take. There are certain things that I do know I need to take to prevent progression of the disorder, but I've been able to dramatically decrease the amount of medication I'm taking.
Yeah, and I see that with my clients with thyroid issues.
Yep.
Many clients get off of their type 2 diabetes. They no longer
Yep.
have that.
Yeah.
They disqualify for having bariatric surgery.
Mhm.
Like this really is
Yeah.
changing our brain.
Yeah. Yeah. And that truly is where the change needs to happen. I mean, it really is.
So as people are watching this video, um, and they're thinking, oh, well, it worked for Susan. That they're, because maybe they're looking for the click,
Mhm.
or they're really
Mhm.
feeling so, even in your first 4 months of feeling like, oh, I don't know if this is working.
Mhm.
What would you say to them if they really want to change and they are considering their quilters,
Yeah.
they've been struggling with their weight, like this couldn't be a better fit? What would you tell them?
What I would say is, first of all, you absolutely can do it. I mean, I I was as skeptical as the next person. Um,
Hmm.
and you have been so supportive and so believing in me since day one that, then there's a part of me that I'm like, well, if Dara thinks I can do it, well, I guess I ought to be able to do it. Um,
Hmm.
which I actually think is a really important step,
Hmm.
to kind of use it as a bridge to believing in yourself to be able to.
Absolutely. Hmm.
But that aside, you absolutely can do it. You, I do think that you need to really look at how committed you are to doing it.
Hmm.
I do think that anyone can do it. I think that being able to do it
Hmm.
means that you need to make the commitment to being willing to take the time, being willing to look at the hard things,
Hmm.
um, being willing to feel all the feelings and have some tears at times. Um,
Hmm.
but also knowing that you're going to have, you're going to have the tears and you're going to have lots of happy emotions as well. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, you can do it. You have to recognize that if you continue doing the things the way you've been doing them, that the change isn't going to happen. That if you want that change to happen, you have to be willing to change the way that you're doing things. So I do think that anyone can do that.
Yeah, I love the expression, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's absolutely true. And I think that's part of why um in looking at your program, why there was that appeal to it for me was it was a different approach. It was not the same eat X, Y, and Z at these times and you will lose the weight.
Right.
It was
Yeah.
a different approach,
Because
which
I don't even know what you eat. Like, I mean, I do kind of know what you eat, but
no,
I never have any of my clients like
no,
write down what you ate and send me how much. I
no,
mean, sometimes we'll do like a little exercise for a week, but really,
right.
truly, I
No,
don't even.
no, I don't think I've ever sent you anything in terms of
No.
like a written diary of what I've been eating. I think, occasionally I'll mention something like, oh, I've been having oatmeal for my first meal of the day a lot, just because that's been appealing to me.
Mhm.
Mention something like that, or, oh, we had chicken for dinner last night, whatever it was. But other than, no,
Yeah.
you don't know specifics about, what it is, how it's prepared, what time I'm eating.
Quantities, none of that.
No, no, not at all. Not
Isn't
at all.
that interesting? And Susan, okay. So tell us about how much weight you've lost and so people can know what's going on that way.
I have lost, I'm right between 29 and 30 pounds right now.
And
So
we started end of August,
I think we started
beginning September.
probably middle August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But no, I mean the weight where I am right now is I it has probably been almost 30 years since I've been at this weight. It's been a long time.
And just
Really
to
long.
again recap, so have you felt deprived? Have you felt like it's painful? Like, let's talk a little bit about that.
No, I have not felt deprived at all. For instance, my mom was visiting this past week and well, she was here for a couple weeks, but I made the meals that we normally make. I probably made a little bit bigger meals with her here, but I chose not to have certain things as a part of those meals, but I certainly didn't feel deprived. I was eating things that were nourishing to me. And we celebrated her birthday with my adult daughters and my grandchildren. And I knew we were going to have cake. So I had a piece of cake. I didn't need to say, oh, I'm going to share a cake with my husband and I'm just going to have a couple bites. Or, oh, just cut me a really tiny piece of cake or anything. I mean, I didn't need a gigantic piece of cake, but I
Mhm,
had a piece
mhm.
of cake and it was totally fine. And, the next day, I mean, things were fine. I just ate on my normal schedule. So no, I have not felt deprived at all. Um, I did the no flour, no sugar for the first 6 weeks. And for the most part, I don't do flour and sugar. It's a kind of a rare occasion when I do have that.
Yeah. And when you eat it, it's like a planned
It
thing.
is
You
it is
plan
planned 24
24
hours
hours
in
in
advance.
advance. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a little challenging initially.
Mhm.
Um, but after a while you kind of get into a habit of it and it's just not a big deal.
Well,
So,
because what is the benefit of that?
well, it I think the biggest benefit is your awareness of what you're putting in your body
Mhm.
and paying attention to what you're putting in your body. um I think the other benefit for me is I honestly feel better.
Mhm.
I honestly feel better. I I, for the most part, no longer wake up having any aching or stiffness in my hands,
Mm,
which is pretty remarkable.
right.
Um, but just overall, I feel better. And frankly, the scale goes down more easily when I'm not eating those things. I mean, it does.
Yeah.
It just I think your body processes the foods that you're eating more efficiently when you're not adding in the flour and sugar.
Yeah. And we talk about how that impacts the weight loss science.
Yeah.
So can we just talk before we close?
Mhm,
When you hear now my philosophy of loving yourself thin,
mhm.
how has that changed, and how does that truly impact you now that you've invested time and energy and really applying all of the tools that I teach in my program?
When I hear it now, it makes complete sense to me. It I think that, when I first heard it in the first little while, there was a part of me that was really skeptical about that.
Mhm.
And I was still very much of the mindset of, well, once I get to this weight, then I can love myself. Once I do this, then I can love myself. And I'm now understanding from my own experience, as well as participating in group coaching and seeing other people, that that has to start now. That
Mhm.
has to be the first step. That I love myself just exactly how I am. You know, I may not be thrilled about certain
Mhm.
parts of myself, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, that really has to be the first step in order to make the other things happen. That's the catalyst.
So this is I just it's so good. So good for you to talk a little bit about what does that mean to lose weight in a group and have other people that are participating in that.
That is super helpful. It really is, for several reasons. You you can watch other people being coached, for one thing,
Mhm.
which can kind of, if you're anxious about being coached, can kind of help
Mhm.
alleviate that anxiety, because you watch them get coached and you realize you're not going to die getting coached. you know
Mhm.
it's um and you see that you are very patient and very non-judgmental, which
Mhm.
personally for me is absolutely huge.
Mhm.
That's because I judge myself more than enough. I don't need
Yeah,
that
yeah,
from anybody
exactly.
else.
Yeah.
Um, but the other benefit in terms of being coached is that um, you can see people may bring things up that they're being coached on that you had not even realized was a challenge or an issue for you.
Mm.
So you watch them and all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, that's kind of been bugging me too, or that, yeah, I need to think about that. Um, you also, it helps you feel more normal. It helps you realize that you're not alone.
Right.
People have similar challenges, similar struggles, and so you recognize that I'm not the only one dealing with this. And I think
Mhm.
particularly what we've all been through the past year with COVID, where we're very isolated, it's really easy to kind of get stuck in your own head of, I'm the only one dealing with whatever it is.
Right.
And so the group coaching, um, I think we've all gotten very good at Zoom meetings. Um,
Mhm. I know we're all experts now.
yeah, amazingly. Um, but it allows you to connect with other people. It allows you to connect with other people who are going through similar situations,
Mhm.
and really to have that feeling and understanding that you're not alone. And everybody in the group is so supportive.
Mhm.
That has just been amazing because it's this group of people who had never met previously and who honestly, in terms of day-to-day real life, wouldn't have necessarily met because we're all over the place. So, yeah, to be able to meet and interact with people who have similar struggles, but also similar interests in terms of the quilting is pretty amazing.
Isn't it fun? All my quilting
It
analogies.
is. Well, it is. But you know what? There's also a part of me that I'm like, you know what? I now have all these people all over the place who I've shared this amazing experience with
Yeah.
that, we could get together in person and we would just be able to like pick right up and
Yeah.
chat and enjoy our company.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Thank you so much. So just in closing, so you gave them the advice of you can do it. You
mhm.
can absolutely do it. You also talked about their commitment level. Is there anything else that you would just say if someone is like wanting to join, they want to, they want so badly to have, they want to be in your shoes. They want to be sitting where you're sitting right now
Mhm.
because they want to be able to say, look, I did this, I lost
Yeah.
30 pounds. And now, because on a level of 1 to 10, how confident do you feel of losing the rest of the weight and keeping it off?
And I would say I probably fluctuate between a 9 and a 10, but I'm very confident.
Yeah.
I'm really very confident. I think when I started, Mike, it probably would have been like a 2 or a 3,
Mhm.
but I'm much more confident now. And if I have a day where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, then I go, wait a minute. I have evidence that I've done it.
Mhm.
I can.
Lots of evidence.
Yes. So saying to somebody, if you're sitting on the fence, I would say that you are absolutely worth it. That, your happiness, your life, you are worth taking the time and spending the energy to do this.
Mhm.
It's completely worthwhile.
So one of the I think one of the biggest problems, and even for me, like investing my time and my energy,
Mhm.
especially money too. I have 5 kids and all
Yeah.
the things.
Yeah.
It is an investment, money and time. And it does seem like there's like a level of like almost selfishness to join a program like this. Can you just address that quickly?
Um, in some ways it does feel selfish. Um, it, but you've used the analogy, and I know we've all heard the analogy that, like on an airplane, put on your own oxygen mask first. And I think many of us as women, as moms, as spouses, we we forget about that analogy.
Hmm.
And it really is true. I mean, if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't take the time every day to take care of ourselves when we need to be taking care of others, whether it's raising kids, whether it's taking care of aging parents, whatever it might be, we're not going to have the internal resources to do that.
Hmm.
And frankly, we will also become very resentful of people demanding so much from us
Right.
because we're not taking care of ourselves. So it's absolutely worth it. Um, yes, there's a financial investment. It's worth every cent. The other thing I ask myself is if it was my spouse or one of my kids saying, "Do you think I should spend this money?" What
Mm.
would my answer be? And my answer would be, if you think that it's going to help you get to the goals that you want to get to, then absolutely. And so then I have to turn that around and say, okay, if I would tell them that, why wouldn't I tell myself that?
Yes, 100%.
And so yes, it's absolutely worth it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan.
Sure.
This was amazing. And I love that even in 6 months from now, I'm going to be sitting across from, well, hopefully in person, and you're going to have another 30 or 40 pounds.
Yeah,
And it's going to be so much fun to look back even at this video,
absolutely.
because we are human brains. And
Mhm,
so we can clean up a bunch of stuff, but
mhm.
then we get mother-in-law's call, or I shouldn't give mother-in-laws a bad rap, because one day I'll be a mother-in-law. Or,
We have to
the
remember
neighbor's
that.
dog keep,
Yeah. We
pardon?
have to remember that.
I
Someday
know.
we will be mother-in-laws, yes.
That's right. But the neighbor's dog keeps barking, or we get a bill that we didn't expect. And all of a sudden, we're going to have a whole new set of problems.
Mhm.
And so our brain is constantly needing to be cleaned. It's just like the laundry. The
Right,
laundry's never really done.
right.
So these tools will just keep us getting the life that we really want. And so we are always going to need them, because we're humans.
Yeah.
But just like you said, your life is so much better and you have so much more confidence. And
Mhm,
I know 100% how there's no way that I could never do this by myself
mhm.
with the way I used to think. And now with my new thoughts,
Mhm.
I can create so much more. And that's really what I'm offering everyone. It's
Yeah,
just an opportunity to truly live life that you're like, I didn't even know was possible. And it's
exactly.
so much fun.
Yeah, it is. It is much more enjoyable. It really is.
It's way more fun being you now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I always say. I'm like, it's way more fun being me, because when I used to beat myself up all the
Yep,
time, no,
yep.
thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Susan, this has been so much fun. And so all of you who are still watching this video, remember everything that she's saying. And if this could totally be, think about it, in
Mhm,
3, 6 months, you and I could be having the same conversation, and
mhm.
you could be inspiring others as you do this. So,
Well, the other thing too, Dara, and I don't know if other clients have offered this, but if somebody was thinking about it and wasn't sure and
oh,
didn't want to talk, wasn't totally comfortable asking you about it, they could certainly contact you and you can give them my contact information and I'm happy to talk with anybody about it.
that is amazing, Susan. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Of course.
All right. I love you. I love this work. I'm so proud of being the weight loss coach for quilters. And as we know, weight loss is never actually about the food. There's a lot of
Nope.
mental loss, weight loss, that mental weight that we work on. Your mental health is the most important. So
Mhm.
thanks so much, Susan. And
Sure.
I will see all of you in Love Yourself Thin.